used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Stay. It says stay down.
I love that movie. When it comes to watches and movies, not many are more central to the storyline than the Hamilton Murph from Interstellar. Christopher Nolan just has this ability to construct immersive alternate worlds. So if you haven't seen it, you should. In the movie, this Hamilton watch is a key element that really helps to tie the whole story together. Hey guys, I'm Max and this is Watch Crunch. Do you want to be on top of the latest watch releases like the Murph? Well, be sure to check out the Watch Crunch news aggregator, where we curate news from across the watch world all in one place. So spoiler alert, but in the movie, Matthew McConaughey's character Cooper, who himself wears a Hamilton Big Pilot Day-Date, by the way, he gives his daughter Murph this watch before traveling into space, only to later communicate with her through space and time by moving the second hand on this watch. The prop watch from the movie was 42 millimeters, and Hamilton made it available to the public after the release, but if you were like me, you saw the size and just kind of shrugged it off as another oversized watch. Fortunately, Hamilton heard our complaints, and now we just got the Murph in 38. The styling hasn't changed. It's a classic military field watch. The recipe is pretty simple. Large printed Arabic numerals finished in dark khaki color with bold cathedral hands done in a bright silver metallic filled with patina lume, all set over a matte black dial. This somewhat drab backdrop makes that silver second hand really pop as it moves across the dial. And I imagine this was an important consideration for the prop watch in the movie. The oversized elements like the hour markers and the hands help to soak up some of that negative space on the dial, something that a lot of field watches with such simple three-hand designs struggle with. Now on the 42 millimeter version of this watch, there was a Morse code kind of printed on the second hand. This is not found on the 38. And unfortunately, the slightly domed sapphire doesn't have AR. Usually I don't mention this, but for some reason on the Murph, it bothers me. And the clarity is often compromised with the crystal appearing hazy and glary unless viewed head on. So they got the proportions right with the Murph 38s. With a thickness of just 11 millimeters and a lug to lug of 45, this is one of those watches that just wants to stay put on your wrist. But holding the lugs a full 20 millimeters apart allows this watch to have broad shoulders and kind of keeps it from feeling like a dainty dress watch. The case is brushed with a polished bezel. There's an oversized push-pull crown bearing the Hamilton logo. Yes, the papers say 100 meters of water resistance, but I personally wouldn't go swimming with it. Out back, we glimpse the Hamilton H10 movement through a sapphire display caseback. This is a modified ETA 2824 with its beat rate slowed down to 3 Hz as to extend the power reserve up to 80 hours. To me, a nice trade-off. I think a lot of old military watches were also 3 Hz, and having over 3 days of power is really a big improvement over the ETA's standard 38 hours. Now expect a plus minus 15 seconds a day in accuracy. It's also kind of a looker with a skeletonized rotor and nice finishing. The strap that ships with this $900 watch is commiserate with its price. It's an attractive dark brown croc with beige stitching that picks up nicely on the colors found on the dial. And it does look just like the strap from the movie. It's both classy and practical. The strap terminates in a solid milled buckle with the Hamilton name. But what's the big problem with this watch? Well, it's not any of the small details we've talked about so far. It's not actually the watch itself. But if you watch my last video, you'll see that this watch has a natural competitor in the Seiko Alpinist, which is both cheaper and possibly better. So let's spend the second half of the video comparing these two watches. But first, I'm gonna ask you to do me a big favor, go down there, tap that like button, do all those YouTube things to keep this content free. Both the Murph and the Alpinist are field style watches at sub 40mm sizes. And despite the dozens of Alpinist models to choose from, my Alpinist de jour is the gold SPB210 with that classic forest green dial. Both watches have lume, with the Seiko shining ever so slightly brighter, but I wouldn't say either is anything to write home about. And the similarities go right down to the cathedral hands. In the last video, the Alpinist scored a 34 out of 50 on the crunch score. So let's apply that to the Murph and see who comes out on top. When it comes to design, I do appreciate the balance that the Murph is able to achieve with the dial, the hands, the case, everything just kind of works together. But we do have to acknowledge that the Alpinist has just a little bit more going on. Everything from the internal rotating bezel, the applied numerals, and even the teardrop tip on the second hand. There was just more attention to detail, if you will. And for that, I think the Murph gets a 7, 1 point down from the Alpinist's 8. On fit and finish, the Hamilton actually does feel a tad more solid than the Seiko. However, it doesn't have a screw down crown. The Alpinist has double the water resistance of the Murph, so this one is going to be a draw at 7. With the movement, I think the Swiss workhorse gets a leg up here. The H10 compared to the 6R is more accurate, it's got extra power reserve, and it's both thinner and better finished. So it gets a 6.5 instead of the Seiko's 5. Ooh, this one's gonna be close. On history and provenance, both Seiko and Hamilton go back, over a century. Hamilton being founded in 1892 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But let's be honest, if it wasn't for the movie Interstellar, there really would be no reason to buy this over any 38mm khaki automatic. But for the cinephiles out there, this watch holds special significance. And for that, the Murph gets an 8. Lastly, let's talk value. Being relatively close in specs, the Seiko is looking like a bargain, being over $100 cheaper than the Hami. Though for a lot of people, a Swiss watch still has more cachet than a Japanese one, but I think that's changing slowly. The Alpinist got a 7 here, so we'll give the Murph just a hair lower in value at 6.5. So tallying all this up, the Murph just edges the Alpinist with a crunch score of 35 out of 50, so essentially identical. And like I said, these are two natural competitors. If the extra water resistance and a little bit of value matters to you, then go with the Alpinist. But if you are a big fan of Interstellar, then there is no substitute, is there? So which one would you choose? Share with us on watchcrunch.com. I'll put a link to a further discussion in the pinned comments below. As always, stay crunchy. I'll see you in the next one.